Stephen Edgington here from Politics UK.
Theresa May agreed with her cabinet today a Brexit position which she's going to take to the European Union and publish in a white paper. And in this video I'm going to go through the good, the bad and what we don't know. And frankly, this is a total disaster for Brexiteers. And there's lots we don't know, but I'll go through that in a minute. Theresa May has finally, after 2 years, come up with some Brexit proposals with her cabinet that she's agreed with, that she's going to take to the European Union and negotiate and try and get a Brexit deal with it. Now, we spent the last 2 years as Brexiteers trying to prevent Theresa May from giving in on every single issue to the Remainers, to the civil servants, to the European Union, and it seems today that we have totally failed in doing so. So what this Brexit agreement that's been signed and by all the cabinet means for you and what this means for the country. Let me just go through some of the points that we didn't know before that we now know that Theresa May has tried to negotiate. So there's a huge issue around the customs union. Now the customs union, if you don't know, is a huge protectionist bloc which has a common external tariff placed on goods and services from outside said bloc. So the European Union, for example, every single country in the European Union has to have the same level of tariffs on goods and services coming outside from the European Union. So Theresa May has tried to say, look, we're going to leave the customs union, but this has caused problems in Northern Ireland where there was going to be a hard border. The European Union said there might be a hard border if we leave the customs union. So Theresa May has totally fudged the issue, and this is what she's done. She said that we are going to have regulatory alignment in terms of goods and agricultural products with the European Union. And what that means is the UK will become a rule taker in terms of goods. Every single good that's produced in the UK will have to follow EU rules that we have no say in whatsoever, and that also includes agricultural products and the agricultural industry in the UK. This is a worst form of Brexit, the worst form you can possibly have, because the European Union makes all the rules on the goods and on the agricultural industry, and we have absolutely no say over said rules. And that means that Parliament does not become sovereign. Now, technically, there is a clause in this policy paper that's been signed by the Cabinet that says Parliament technically will have some say over those rules. Parliament will have some say, and basically how it works is this. Parliament can decide whether to take a new EU regulation on goods, for example, let's say on bananas or on cars. Parliament has a say over whether we accept that rule or not. However, if we do not accept that rule, Parliament would be forced to enact a consequence. Now, we don't know what that consequence will be, but it's highly likely that Parliament would almost never, ever stop an EU rule from going through, because the consequence and the bureaucracy caused by that would be way too much for British business and the British economy to handle. Now, what this also means is not only do we not have any say over the rules, it means that we can't then make free trade agreements with countries like America and Australia in the best possible way. And this is because we have to sign up to all EU rules. It doesn't matter if we're doing business with China or with Russia or with America or with Australia. It means that every single 100% of the economy has to follow these EU rules. And this means that it restricts our ability to make free trade deals around the world, because countries may want to change those rules or may want to align with those rules differently to how the European Union makes them and sets them. And this is why the EU is so bad at negotiating free trade agreements around the world. And the EU claims to have 60 plus free trade deals, well, they don't tell you that 30 of them are with tiny little islands and the rest of them are quite insignificant. For example, there's no free trade deal with China or America, some of the largest economies in the world. Now, what else does this new agreement that Theresa May has signed up to today say? It's also talked about visa-free travel, and I'll read the exact line that the agreement says. UK and EU citizens can continue to travel to each other's territories and apply for study and work. Now, what this means is there's no mention of visas. Now, we've got to wait for the detail on this, but what it suggests is that Theresa May is willing to accept some kind of freer movement for people in the EU without any visas, and that's very much close to the status quo of what we have today, which means that will we be able to properly control our borders? Well, who knows? This agreement suggests that we won't. Theresa May obviously argues that we will be able to control our own borders, and she also argues that we will be able to take back control over our laws and regulatory alignment and stuff like that, despite the fact that of what I've talked about already, where we have to sign up to EU rules on goods, which is a huge part of the UK economy, and agriculture, another big part of the UK economy. So how did this happen? How do we let this happen? Well, the main reason is this. No cabinet ministers resigned. No cabinet ministers put up a fight against Theresa May. We know that Boris Johnson, Michael Gove and all the other Brexiteers in the cabinet have totally failed in their duty to protect the British people from having to accept a new version or a worse version of being in the EU where we are rule takers rather than rule makers. And that's the whole point of Brexit. It's about sovereignty. And the Brexiteer cabinet have absolutely failed to prevent this from happening. Theresa May, the Remainers, the civil servants, the European Union have won. Today was a huge victory for them. And the Brexit cabinet ministers really need to hang their heads in shame because they have totally failed. Now, what I'm going to say is this. We need to wait for the detail in this agreement because this is just an outline. There will be a Brexit white paper that will be published very soon, and Theresa May will come back to us and we'll be able to go through the detail. And Jacob Rees-Mogg has even said, look, the devil is in the detail. We need to check what's going on here, what's really going on. Have the cabinet really signed away Britain's future to become a rule taker on so much of the economy? Have the cabinet really signed away Britain's ability to make its own laws? Or is this all just hyperbole? Is this all just exaggeration by Brexiteers? Well, I think a lot of it comes down to how much trust you have in Theresa May. How much trust do you have in her negotiating ability to be able to get this through not only the Brexit negotiations but also through Parliament? Look, this is just a proposal. The European Union haven't accepted this whatsoever. So not only is this a huge version of soft Brexit, but it also means the European Union has the ability to be able to water it down in the Brexit negotiations, which we've seen time and after time after time. Theresa May goes, we have a red line, the red line becomes blurrier, it becomes pink, and then the EU, we basically concede to the EU on every single issue so far. We've given them £40 billion for absolutely nothing in return. We're giving away so much of our defence industry in terms of cooperation with the EU. Check out my interview with David Banks from a few days ago to find out more about that. We've given away so much to the European Union. Will Theresa May finally be able to put her foot down and say no, enough is enough? And another huge aspect of this is no deal. What Theresa May has really cleverly done is said no, we're not going to prepare for no deal. Up to now, the government has done minimal preparation for no deal. And that has meant two things. One, it means that there's no option for Brexiteers to do. So what we've got is the softest possible Brexit or nothing, or we stay in the EU, or there's no other option. So Theresa May has lined up her deal as saying, look, you have to take this or leave it because we haven't prepared for no deal, so it's not an option. And two, it means that the European Union has able to trample over us, has been able to absolutely destroy us in negotiations because they don't take seriously the threat of us leaving negotiations, which has severely hurt their businesses. But there is a but here. There's several buts actually. One, we don't know the detail. Two, we don't know if the EU will accept it and what way they will accept. And if the EU do not accept it, that moves us ever closer to a no-deal scenario, which personally would be I think would be much better than the deal that Theresa May is trying to get. It would mean the UK would have full control over our borders, over our laws, over our money. We wouldn't have to send £40 billion to the European Union. But it would mean we would have to accept tariffs on goods and services with the EU. Now, tariffs throughout history have been going down throughout history because the World Trade Organization has basically been reducing tariffs ever since we joined the EU in 1973. So what this means is, look, British businesses aren't going to be happy if they have to accept tariffs, and that's obvious, and that will hurt consumers and whatever. But look, in the long term, as we sign free trade deals around the world, as we have the ability to do that, and maybe even the European Union would accept a reduction in tariffs over the long term, who knows? Surely it's better for the UK to have control over our own destiny rather than becoming rule takers from the European Union. Another huge consequence of this deal, potentially, is that voters lose trust in the government. They say, look, in 2016 we voted for Brexit, and that doesn't mean a soft Brexit, that means a proper Brexit. And if the government can't deliver that, well, why would anyone ever vote for anything again? When the biggest democratic mandate in history achieves nothing whatsoever, or makes the UK even worse off by becoming a rule taker, then why would anyone have trust in Theresa May? I've seen lots of people telling me, look, I'm no longer ever going to vote Conservative again if any of this stuff is true. And I think that's fair enough. Why should they? Why should anyone vote for a party who's basically lied to them and said, look, we're going to leave the single market, leave the customs union, have a full proper Brexit, when they've totally reversed on this and then conceded on every single issue to the European Union? But look, we do have control over our services industry, which is a huge boost for the UK services industry, which is a massive part of the UK economy. We're also leaving the common fisheries policy and the common agricultural policy. We're also leaving the customs union technically, and we will be able to sign free trade deals. No, they will be limited, but we will be able to sign free trade deals. And there is a potential for no deal. Look, in the last paragraph of this Brexit statement that Theresa May's put out today, the government have said they are preparing or stepping up preparations for a no deal. Perhaps they are. And again, look, this all comes down to how much trust you have in Theresa May. And I know you'll say in the comments, no, I have no trust in her whatsoever. But look, she has to get this through. She has to have some support of the cabinet Brexiteers, and they haven't resigned on this issue. They've conceded to her on this issue, but surely they've got some red lines. And not only that, she's also got to go to the country with this. And so many of the country voted for Brexit, 52% of us. And that means Theresa May, she has some incentive, at least some incentive, not to totally water this down. So perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps this isn't such a terrible deal. But to me, it looks like we've been totally sold down the river. It looks like we're becoming a vassal state, and it does not look good. And now it's up to you. What you can do. Look, go to protests, sign petitions, go on Twitter, tweet your MPs, email your MPs, write letters. Please, we need to stop Theresa May from giving in to on every single issue all the time. This isn't acceptable, and I'm trying to do my best to prevent Theresa May from doing this. From the very, very, very small amount of influence that I have on this YouTube channel, I'm going to continue making videos, and I'm going to try and help this country get a proper Brexit, and I think you should too. So thank you so much for watching. I really enjoy making these videos, and if you want to help me out, you can donate to my link in the description. I've got a Patreon and a PayPal. It would be so useful. The EU is also passing Article 13. Hopefully that won't happen, so again, try and prevent that from happening, signing petitions and stuff below. You can help my channel out, as I said, by donating to the channel. It would so help me out. So many of my videos get demonetized, so it'd be really, really useful. And I'll see you in the next one.